In the last video, you built a real, layered pipeline and generated documentation for it. That pipeline is only useful if it actually runs on a schedule, and if changes to it reach production safely, without breaking anything. Today we cover exactly that, how DBT projects get scheduled, how a change moves from your laptop to production, and how to catch a mistake before it ever reaches real users. Let's get into it. By the end, you'll understand the same lifecycle that keeps real production data teams moving quickly without breaking things for their users. Before talking about scheduling, it's worth being clear about environments. When you run DBT on your own laptop, your model's built into your own isolated development schema, completely separate from anything a real user could ever see. Production is the same project, the same models, but running on a fixed schedule, building into the schema your actual dashboard's query. The important thing to understand is that the exact same code powers both. The only real difference is which target you're pointed at, the same target setting we configured back in the profiles file in video 2. This separation is what lets you experiment freely, try something risky, break it, and fix it, all without any chance of the real user ever noticing. There are really 3 common ways to schedule a DBT project. DBT Cloud Jobs give you a built-in scheduler with a simple interface. You set a schedule, pick which commands to run, and DBT Cloud handles the infrastructure entirely. An orchestrator like Airflow or Dagster is the right choice for teams who already run other pipelines, since DBT simply becomes one step inside a larger workflow alongside ingestion and other jobs. And plain cron running DBT core is the simplest option of all, a scheduled server task on a timer, though you take on all the monitoring and alerting responsibility yourself. Most teams actually start with plain cron or DBT Cloud, and only move to a full orchestrator once DBT genuinely needs to coordinate with several other systems. Here's what a typical DBT Cloud job looks like. It runs every night at 2 a.m., using a single command, DBT build, which runs your models, your tests, and your snapshots together, in the correct dependency order. Notice the notification setting at the bottom. Wiring up a Slack alert on failure means you find out about a broken pipeline from a message in Slack, not from a stakeholder asking why this morning's dashboard looks wrong. Notice too that this job runs a single command rather than several separate ones, which keeps the schedule itself simple to reason about, even months after you first set it up. Here's how a real change actually reaches production. You create a Git branch, make your changes, and test them locally against your own development schema. Then you open a pull request, which automatically triggers a continuous integration check, testing your change in an isolated environment before anyone reviews it. Only once that check passes, and a teammate approves it, does the change get merged into the main branch, ready for the next scheduled production run. Notice that nothing reaches production without passing through an automated check first. This is the same fundamental pattern behind almost every modern software deployment process, DBT projects included, just applied to SQL instead of application code. This is what a continuous integration job looks like. It triggers automatically the instant a pull request is opened, with nobody needing to remember to run it by hand. Critically, it builds into a temporary, isolated schema, so even a genuinely broken change, caught mid-review, can never touch real production data. If this check fails, the pull request is blocked from merging until it's fixed. A failed CI check is meant to feel routine, not alarming. It's simply the system doing exactly the job it was built to do. That state-modified selector you just saw is worth understanding on its own, because it's what keeps continuous integration fast even as a project grows large. Instead of rebuilding your entire project on every single pull request, DBT tests only the models that actually changed, plus anything downstream that depends on them. A project with 500 models doesn't need all 500 rebuilt just to review a one-line change to a single model. This technique, often called Slim CI, works by comparing your pull request against a saved snapshot of your last successful production run. On a truly large project, This difference can mean a CI check finishing in under a minute instead of taking 20, which changes how often people are willing to open small, careful pull requests. Put all of this together, and here's why it actually matters. A genuinely bad model never reaches a real dashboard, because it's caught inside an isolated CI schema, long before it ever gets anywhere near production data. Reviewers see exactly what will change, since a pull request shows the real diff in the SQL itself, not just a written description of the intended change. And production stays stable even as many people contribute at once, since 10 different analysts can all be working on the same project simultaneously without stepping on each other's work. None of this requires a large platform team either. Even a 2-person analytics team benefits enormously from a review step that exists purely to catch mistakes before they matter. Once your pipeline is running on a schedule, monitoring is what tells you it's actually working. Job history shows every past run, success or failure, how long it took, and exactly which model failed if something went wrong. Notifications catch problems immediately. A Slack or email alert the moment a scheduled job fails, rather than someone noticing a stale dashboard hours later. And source freshness checks catch a genuinely different kind of problem, not a broken model, but stale data, confirming your raw data actually arrived on time before you even bother running anything on top of it. Most teams treat a failed job the same way they treat any other production incident, worth investigating immediately, not something to notice a week later. Here's the complete lifecycle, start to finish. You develop locally, in your own isolated schema. A pull request triggers an automatic CI check, testing only what changed. Once approved, it merges into main. A scheduled job then runs that code in production, on whatever cadence you've set. And monitoring watches the whole thing, alerting you the moment anything fails. This loop, running continuously, is really what separates a serious, production-grade DBT project from a script someone runs by hand when they remember to. This full loop is also what makes it safe to bring new people onto a data team, since the process itself, not any one person's memory, is what protects production. Let's bring this together. Dev and prod run the exact same code, just pointed at different targets. Every real change goes through a pull request and a continuous integration check first, so nothing reaches production without an automated safeguard catching problems early. Slim CI keeps that testing fast even as a project grows, by only rebuilding what actually changed. And monitoring closes the loop, with job history, failure alerts, and source freshness checks confirming your pipeline is genuinely working, not just scheduled to. Reaching this point is a real milestone. Most teams take months to build this same discipline into their workflow without a guide walking them through it directly. That's the full picture, from your very first model all the way to a safely deployed, monitored production pipeline. Across this series, you've gone from not knowing what DBT was, to understanding exactly how a real, professional analytics engineering project is built and run. If you've enjoyed this series, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you'd like covered next, whether that's advanced Jinja and macros, or a deeper look at testing strategy. Thanks for following along, and see you in the next one.